Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Stummpcast. I am your host, Mr. Tree Stump. I know we said that we were going to put these out every Saturday. I apologize. I was not considering the 4th of July in there, kind of messing things up, being with family and having events going on and different things like that. So we did not get one out last week, but we've got one out. Will be tomorrow when you see this. So be every Saturday from here going forward. Make sure you guys grab your popcorn, stick around, drop a like, drop a follow, give me some feedback. Let me know what you guys think. Tune into the next one. Have a good day. Everybody had a good 4th. I hope you had plenty of grilling to do. I hope you had plenty of beer to drink. I hope you had plenty of fireworks to shoot off. And I hope you had a great time with your family and friends. So let's get into it for today. The one of the things that's been on my mind for a long time has been gaming. You know, as you see by a lot of the other content that's on my channel, along with the logo that's right here, is gaming is a big pastime of mine. Gaming is one of those things I love to do. I've loved to game for years. And gaming has changed a lot over the last 5 years. I think gaming had a curve to it, and I think when the pandemic hit, that curve got really aggressive. And now it's kind of really up in the air on what games are going to look like in the future. One of the big things that changed that I want to touch on isn't really necessarily something that I like. It seems like every game over pushes, I guess I'm going to say, microtransactions. Now, if you don't know what microtransactions are, I'll give you a brief explanation for it. Microtransactions are basically anything that you would find in the store category of a video game, you know. So for instance, Call of Duty has a store selection in their menu that you can go and buy skins, weapon skins, emotes, calling cards, anything you could possibly imagine to customize the game to make it unique for you. And every game has this. I think on a personal level, I think Fortnite was the one to really kind of take off with the microtransactions and make it what it is today. You know, Fortnite was the game that really kind of was the most innovative in the way games are run today, I think. You know, they really there were battle royale games before that, don't get me wrong, but I think Fortnite was the one that really launched it to new heights. And I think they were the ones that really launched the overutilization of microtransactions as much as they are overutilized today. And if they were the way that I see it, and I don't, maybe somebody can drop a comment down below and let me know, but the way I see it is, to me, I would rather make a lot of these microtransactions a tenth of the cost of what they are now to increase volume overall. Because there's a lot of people that I know that just work regular jobs that don't have the newest this, don't have the best that, simply because they can't get it because of the cost. These microtransactions, you know, I think let me use Call of Duty for an example again. I want to say a pack, just a general pack on Call of Duty that has, you know, a couple gun skins in it, maybe a couple of skins in it, some charms, you know, whatever. I think a typical skin is somewhere around $10. Which, yes, isn't a lot, but I guarantee you'd sell a lot more of them if you drop that down to $5. Doesn't cost you anything to make. You've already got all the equipment that you need to make those things in game. So it's not like it's costing you any money. You know what I mean? Like, let's drop that cost down a little bit and maybe sell more. That's what I would do. I don't know. I'm not a logistics analyst. I'm not an analyst. I'm not a logistics person in that realm. So I'll just leave that to the people that make a lot more money than me. So microtransactions, I think, definitely are something that has kind of gotten blown out of the water. And I want to say that I hope the gaming developers and these big companies that are making these games are listening to their community when we say we're sick of these transactions. Like, let us earn them let us grind the game and earn them that way. You know, let's not, because a lot of these skins, the only way you can get them is if you buy them, which I think is dumb. I think is really dumb. You know what? Think about back in the early or the Call of Duty days back when multiplayer really took off. Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty Black Ops, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2. When you had a nice skin or a nice gun camo, you had to grind for that camo. You had to work for it. You didn't just have to go buy it. And I think the idea that we don't still have that option is absurd. So I guess we'll just have to see where the gaming community goes as far as that's concerned. Hopefully we head in the right direction, but only time will tell. And I guess one of the things that we keep searching for when we keep buying these new games, and we keep getting these new skins and getting these new gun camos and getting this and getting that, is I think a lot of us are searching for the nostalgic feeling, and that feeling that we had when we were 13 years old, sitting in line at a GameStop to get the new Call of Duty or to get the new Madden game or whatever it was, and the joy that we felt when we cracked that case open and put the disc in for the first time. That joy we felt when we played the first game, or when we started the campaign, or whatever it was that we were doing. So I think nostalgia is something that we're all kind of searching for a little bit, is to feel that same love that we felt years ago. So what is gaming going to look like in the future is my question. I can tell you right now, just based on the list I have in front of me of some of the games coming out over the course of the next 2 year, or year and a half now, because we're halfway through 2025. The list of games that we have coming out over the course of the next year and a half is absolutely fucking stacked. So I got a list sitting up here of not all of, but just some of the games that stood out to me that I recognized and that I think are pretty big name games that are coming out over the course of the next year and a half. So for 2025, the remaining 6 months that we have, we've got Donkey Kong Bonanza that's coming out, Killing Floor 3, Grounded 2, Mafia: The Old Country, Madden 26, Gears of War Reloaded, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, Borderlands 4, the new Indiana Jones game, Ghost of Yotai, Outer World 2, High on Life 2, Skate 4, and Subnautica 2. To me, those aren't all huge, Class A, top tier, Call of Duty names, but that's a pretty stacked list of games as far as I'm concerned. And there's more coming for that, in 2026. We confirmed for 2026 release, we've got Resident Evil Requiem, GTA 6, which is probably the biggest banger of them all, Fable 4, Marvel 1943, and my personal favorite, the one that I'm looking forward to the most, Gears of War E-Day. I'm a huge Gears of War fan. I've got Marcus sitting right back here behind me from the Gears 3 Ultimate Edition along with the COG. I'm a huge Gears fan. It's my favorite series of all time, and I'm absolutely stoked for Gears E-Day. So some of the other games that we have that are still to be announced that have been announced but we don't have a release date for yet include Black Ops 7, which just got announced, which we'll touch on that later. BioShock 4, Crysis 4, Fallout 5, which is going to be massive, Jurassic Park Survival, Kingdom Hearts 4, 3 new Marvel games. We've got a Blade game coming out, a Wolverine game coming out, and an Iron Man game coming out. A new Mass Effect game, The Division 3, which is again going to be a huge game, State of Decay 3, Sims 5, and The Witcher 4. That is for the next year and a half of gaming that we've got coming up. That list is stacked to the top. We are going to have some phenomenal games here. Now, my reaction to Black Ops 7 when I said that probably wasn't exactly what what everybody anticipated it to be. I think that Call of Duty is really soaking the industry in a way they shouldn't be. You know, I'm a big Warzone player. I love Warzone. I'm a big Battle Royale guy. I love playing Battle Royales. And Warzone is the one that's really got me locked in right now. You know, I love what Warzone brings to the table. Yes, the cheating situation is absolutely abysmal right now, but that's, as far as gameplay is concerned, it's where I feel the most comfortable. But the problem is, it seems like we're going on this trend where we have a new Black Ops every year. Black Ops 6 isn't even a year old yet, and we've already got Black Ops 7 announced. And it was the same way with the game before that, and the game before that, and the game before that. And they've been doing it like that for a long time. And I just think if they stopped and slowed down and took a little more time to, what's the word I'm looking for? I think if they just stopped and took a little more time and really put some thought into it and really put some more creativity into it, that they could have a better quality game and something that people enjoy more. But it seems like most of the games, the last Call of Duty that I've personally bought that I played, I think was Cold War. And I did enjoy the campaign on Cold War. But the other thing that you have to take into consideration is when you buy the game, all right, when you just, we'll just talk about the standard edition of the game. You get the campaign, you get multiplayer, you get some sort of a zombie mode, arcadey kind of thing, some sort of mode like that. And, you know, whatever else they may include as far as like a store, you know, whatever they may include. I am the type of person where I don't necessarily play multiplayer. I haven't in a long time. The last multiplayer that I really remember playing hard that I enjoyed was Advanced Warfare, which, looking back at it, I probably should have grinded that a little bit more. I do think personally that if I really would have put the effort in, I could have gone pro. I am a lot, but my age has not done me well. I think at my peak, I was somewhere between a 7 and an 8 KD average on multiplayer for Advanced Warfare. And yet I never really was one that liked the futuristic thing with the exosuits and, you know, the futuristic guns and all these different things. I never really liked a whole lot of that. You know, when it came down to the campaign and the story, I wanted something realistic, something I could relate to in today's time frame. You know, but the multiplayer for me, it was a little bit different, and I could kind of get behind it a little bit more as far as being as futuristic as it was. So I think that the cost of games for me is not worth what I get out of it. Especially now in today's Call of Duty campaigns, because Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2019 was probably the first time that I really stopped and acknowledged that that was a really short campaign. And that really was not worth the $60 that I paid for it. And it was the same thing with Cold War when I bought it. And I bought Vanguard with the intention of playing it, and I never did, because I just thought it's probably not worth it. And to this day, I still haven't played Vanguard. I have it, but I've never played it. So I didn't bother buying Black Ops 6. I won't buy Black Ops 7. And that has a lot to do with cost versus value. One of the other things as far as cost is concerned that I wanted to touch on is GTA 6. I am very used to games now coming out and either being very buggy, very glitchy, and not being really any good right off the bat. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. They worked on Cyberpunk for years, and they came out and it flopped on its face harder than I have ever seen any game flop on its face before in my life. And I know they've had 12 years, 13 years by the time it comes out to work on GTA 6, but it's one of those things where I'm just afraid it's going to do the same thing Cyberpunk did, where it's going to come out and there's going to be a lot of problems. And I don't feel comfortable pre-ordering the game and buying a game that's going to be that bad off rip. It may not be. I may be entirely wrong. They've had it's Rockstar. Rockstar's not really known for putting out bad games. So I still don't think it's enough for me to buy it. I think what it'll end up being is it'll be one of those things where the game will launch and I'll look at the landscape of the game after it's been out for a week or two and then make my determination then. And it'll be the same thing when Red Dead Redemption 3 comes out. I know that hasn't been fully announced yet, but Red Dead Redemption 2 is amongst my top 5 games of all time. And even still, I don't think that I'll pre-order it. I think I'd probably do the same thing as GTA 6. The only game that I can tell you that's on this list that I will most definitely be pre-ordering just because of my love for the series. My love for the series outweighs the risk of it being a flop is Gears E-Day. And coming along with Gears E-Day, one of the games I also said was Gears of War Reloaded. That kind of leads into another talking point that I wanted to get into was the way graphics are going these days. We are at a time where graphics are better than they have ever been. And that's one of those things where graphics are only going to keep getting better. On that same token, though, Gears of War Reloaded, I think, has a lot of people excited, but I think it's a little redundant. Gears of War came out in 2006 and is one of the best games of all time, in my opinion. And it was remastered in 2015, which, yes, has been 10 years ago now, but it was already remastered once. Now here we are 10 years later. The game came out 19 years ago, and we're getting another remaster? Why haven't we touched Gears 2 or Gears 3? Gears 3, and this, again, is just my personal opinion, is the best game of all time. For me. And I think a lot of people that are in the Gears community would agree with that. You know, that's where this came from, was Gears 3. And I think a lot of people in that community would agree with me. So why haven't we gotten a Gears 2 remaster or a Gears 3 remaster? Why are we getting a second remaster of Gears 1? So, I mean, that's just something to think about. I would love to see a Gears 2 remaster and a Gears 3 remaster. I will still probably end up getting Gears Reloaded, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it's really worth, you know, I've played that campaign at least 5 times. Is it really worth getting again? You know, I watched a stream of Nick Merckx, who is a former Call of Duty World Champion, playing the beta for Gears of War Reloaded, and realistically, the graphics don't look any better than they did in 2015. At least not to me. So why would I spend the money to go buy a game that has already been remastered once that's no better looking than it was 10 years ago? What's the benefit? Maybe somebody can drop a comment down below and kind of give me the reasons and weigh in and debate with me a little bit on why this is, but I just don't see the point. So graphics are at a point now where we're more realistic than ever. I think honestly we're reaching a point where graphics are starting to look better than real life. One of the games I think that does realistic graphics really, really well, and not necessarily on a real life perspective, but just on a quality perspective, are some of the mods and some of the shader packs that you can get for Minecraft. I was never a huge Minecraft guy. I've always had it. I've always kind of dabbled with it here and there, but like I never really dove into it. And here over the course of the last year, I've got two of my close friends who like playing Minecraft every now and again, and I have realms. We have realms together, and I never really dove into it until I started playing with those guys, and now I've got, you know, quite a bit of time put into, one of the realms. One of them's kind of fresh, but I've got a lot of time put into one of the realms, and the graphic shader pack that he had me download, the lighting, the sun rays, the water, I mean, is just absurd how good it looks. Better than some stuff you would see in real life, I might say. So it's definitely reaching a point where we are in the highest class of gaming that I think we'll be in as far as graphics is concerned. Um, a lot of games are kind of pushing towards DLCs as well. Not I wouldn't necessarily call a DLC a microtransaction, but DLCs are really getting out there as well. One of the games that I have equipment for that I love to play is American Truck Simulator. I have the steering wheel, I've got the pedals, I have the shifter. I use a tablet for, everything on the dash, like the brakes and the Jake brake and everything like that. And each they come out, I think since the game came out, which I don't even remember when it came out. It was like 2016, I think. They come out every once in a while with a new DLC, and the DLCs that they're working on are all state DLCs. Each state is a new DLC. The game started with like California, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, New Mexico, maybe Idaho. I don't really remember. It was West Coast states. I know for a fact California, Oregon, and Washington were in it. I don't remember where we're at. I don't remember what now, but the game came out in 2016, I believe. We're 9 years into it, and they're in the Midwest now. They've announced Illinois, they've announced Minnesota. I don't think they've announced Wisconsin yet. Louisiana, Arkansas, I think is already out. Louisiana might already be out too, but they're really progressing across. So eventually, we're going to have the whole 50 United States, which I think is awesome. I think is absolutely awesome. And DLCs, I think, can go too far. I think American Truck Simulator is doing it right. I think for a game where you're primarily driving, I think adding more places to drive and doing it state by state with what they're doing, I think is perfect. I think the way they're doing it is absolutely perfect. What I don't necessarily agree with are games like Train Simulator. When I was doing a little bit of reading, coming up with some information for this podcast that I'm recording, one of the things that I looked at is Train Simulator. And Train Simulator, if you buy the game and every DLC the game has to offer, you're in it like 10 grand. 10 grand for a video game and everything it has to offer is fucking ridiculous. Honestly, shame on them. That's too much. It's too much. If you go to American Truck Simulator and you buy all 50 state deal, or well, you buy all the state DLCs that they've got right now, you're in it maybe $150, $200. Each state's about $15. Actually, no, that wouldn't even be 150. I don't know how many states they have to know what the number would be, but it's $15 a state. That's not 10 grand. It's never going to be 10 grand. Yes, they can add trailer packs. Yes, they can add truck packs, but it's never going to be 10 grand. There's only so many things you can add. I think 10 grand for DLCs, if you want all of them, is a horrendous, absurd, abysmal, whatever you want to call it. So we talked about games a little bit, and I think one of the other places that I want to touch on is the growth and the transition that consoles and gaming platforms are going through. For years, the big three have always been known as Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, which I do still think hold their place very high amongst those ranks. But I really think that as PC gaming goes up, those three will start to go down. It seems as though gaming consoles, specifically consoles, are really trying to reach out to be as close to PC without being PC. And I say that especially with the addition of the newest Xbox console coming out, having the addition of Steam. I think the addition of Steam will send Xbox and console to higher levels than it has ever seen before. And I say that because Steam and PC gaming specifically has something that console games have never had. And that is those cheap, arcadey, fun indie games. Yes, there are indie games on console. Do not get me wrong about that. There are indie games on console. But with Steam, let me put it this way. Yes, you have indie games on console, but when you look at the games that are on console, here are the games you have on Xbox. Here are the games you have on Xbox. Here are the games you have on PlayStation. Here are the games you have on Nintendo, because there's a lot more games on Nintendo than there are anything else. Here's the games you have on Steam. And yes, some of them are big name games, some of them are indie games. There's a lot more indie games than there are big games, but you're taking your player base from having games like this to having games like this. And I think one of the things that a lot of, and I know this was for me personally as well, is there were times where I would see people online playing, playing this game or that game, and I would think, "Oh man, that looks fun as hell. I love that. It looks fun." But I wouldn't be able to play it because I was on console. And that was kind of part of what drove me to get a PC amongst other things. But indie games, the realms that console hasn't touched and I don't think will for a long time is the capability of mods. Yes, there are a few games that have in-game mods that you can download and put on. But look at games like Farming Simulator, Minecraft, uh, American Truck Simulator, like we touched on before. Almost every game has mods in some way, shape, or form that you can download to make the gaming experience more enjoyable. I one of the games that I played that I really don't talk about a whole lot, that I is a huge part of my life and really is a big part of who I am as a person is Farming Simulator. I've got like somewhere between 14 and 1500 hours on Farming Simulator 22. And I've got probably somewhere between 8 and 900 mods downloaded for that game to make it more enjoyable for me and to make it more realistic and all these different things. So I definitely think mods will be something that consoles probably won't touch on for a while. I think that'll really send it, to a whole nother universe when they do that. But at that point, you're getting close enough to a PC that I think once you touch on that, at that point, then you're not buying a console, you're just buying a PC. There's only so far you can go before you just become what you're competing against, if that makes sense. Um, so there's a lot of different places that we could go with this. There's a lot of different things to touch on. Um, but nonetheless, no matter which way you look at it, the gaming industry is growing and it is growing at a rapid pace. Um, I think one of the things I remember seeing is in 2023, 77% or 78 or 80, 79 or 80 or something around there percent of gamers were all gaming on more than one console. Which, I mean, gaming on more than one platform, console, whatever you want to talk about it, however you want to talk about it, really kind of defeats the console wars and really kind of defeats the platform wars. I kind of defeat the platform wars myself. I've got my PC, which I primarily game on, but I've got an Xbox in my living room. You know, I kind of defeat the purpose of that myself. Let me pull something up here. I just want to look at some of the numbers. Okay, here we go. So the gaming industry supports 1.8 million jobs, and annually produces about 329 billion with a B, billion dollars, which is ungodly amounts of numbers. But that's just where we're at in the gaming industry. Let's just see here. So the bottom line is everything is growing all the time. Gaming is soaring and growing to new heights. There's a lot of things that need change to make it better, but I think we're headed in a good direction. You know, the games that are coming out, the quality that we're seeing, I think there are a few tweaks that need to be done. But I think everything gaming related right now is headed up at an absurd rate, and I think we'll be in the best state of gaming here before too long. You know, we're already in the best state gaming has ever been in, but I think just a few minor tweaks and a few changes that are audience led, and we'll be farther than we've ever been before. If you made it to the end of the podcast, I want to give a special thank you. You guys really are the driving force to me and the content that I put out on a regular basis. This podcast, like I've said in other episodes, is something that I've dreamed about doing for years in the past. So the fact that I'm actually doing this now, even though the audience may be small, is a dream come true. You know, it takes a lot of work to get this out, but it's something that I'm definitely enjoying doing. So if you made it this far into the podcast and you're here at the end, do me a favor and drop a like, drop a follow, subscribe to the channel. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Give me some topics to talk about. Let me know what you want to debate me on, you know. Give me something to go off of. Let me know what you guys want to hear. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Stummpcast. We'll see you next week.